Toxic people are everywhere. They might be coworkers, family members, friends, or even strangers who cross your path. You can't always avoid them, but you can control how they affect you. This is where the wisdom of Stoicism becomes a powerful tool. It teaches us that external events and people's behavior are beyond our control, but our reactions, our mindset, and our inner peace are always within our grasp. The Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius, one of the greatest Stoic philosophers, dealt with betrayal, envy, and deception on a daily basis. Yet he maintained his clarity, composure, and purpose. His approach wasn't about suppressing emotions or becoming indifferent. It was about developing resilience, maintaining dignity, and choosing peace over chaos. Imagine this. Someone insults you, spreads rumors, or deliberately tries to provoke you. Your immediate reaction might be anger, frustration, or a desire to retaliate. But pause for a moment. Ask yourself, is this battle worth my energy? Is my reaction helping or harming me? The Stoics remind us that we are not obligated to respond to every slight, nor should we let others dictate our emotional state. Detachment does not mean being cold or emotionless. It means having the strength to choose where your energy goes. If someone throws an insult, think of it as an arrow. If your self-worth is an impenetrable shield, that arrow can never harm you. This doesn't mean you won't feel the sting of negativity, but it does mean you won't allow it to define you. One of the most powerful tools you have is the ability to reframe situations. What if, instead of seeing toxic people as obstacles, you saw them as tests of your character? Every difficult interaction is an opportunity to practice patience, self-control, and wisdom. When someone tries to provoke you, see it as training. Just as a warrior hones their skills in battle, you refine your emotional strength by not letting toxicity consume you. Instead of reacting impulsively, observe. Pay attention to their patterns. Toxic people often seek reactions. They thrive on drama, conflict, and control. The less you engage, the less power they hold over you. But what if you can't ignore them? Maybe it's a boss who constantly criticizes, a family member who manipulates, or a friend who drains your energy. Here's where strategic thinking comes into play. The Stoics didn't believe in passivity. They believed in mastery over one's mind and circumstances. If someone is toxic but unavoidable, set firm boundaries. Make it clear, through your actions and words, that your peace is not up for negotiation. Boundaries are not walls to shut people out. They are guidelines that protect your well-being. It's also crucial to recognize false cordiality. Some toxic individuals disguise their negativity with charm, pretending to have your best interests at heart while subtly undermining you. Watch for inconsistencies in their actions. Do their words match their behavior? Are they supportive when no one is watching, or only when it benefits them? Genuine people are consistent. Their kindness is steady, not conditional. If you sense someone's friendliness is a mask, trust that instinct. Stoicism teaches us to value authenticity over appearances. Another key lesson is choosing your battles wisely. Not every argument deserves your attention. Engaging with a toxic person often fuels the fire instead of extinguishing it. Think of it this way. If someone tries to start a fire with wet wood, it won't catch. But if you react emotionally, you're providing dry kindling. Silence, in many cases, is more powerful than words. It denies toxic individuals the reaction they crave. It forces them to sit with their own negativity instead of transferring it to you. Understanding that you cannot control others, only yourself, is liberating. Trying to change a toxic person through arguments or reasoning is like trying to calm a storm by yelling at the clouds. It doesn't work. Instead, focus on your inner stability. When faced with manipulation or negativity, ask yourself, is this worth my peace? If the answer is no, walk away mentally, even if you cannot do so physically. You are always in control of your response. Now reflect for a moment. How do you typically react to toxic people? Do you engage in arguments that drain you? Do you let their words linger in your mind? Or do you practice detachment, choosing wisdom over emotional turmoil? Stoicism is not about suppressing emotions, but about not being ruled by them. Your energy is precious. Spend it on what truly matters. Another essential mindset shift is seeing toxic encounters as a mirror. They reveal more about the other person than about you. When someone lashes out, manipulates, or spreads negativity, it's a reflection of their inner turmoil, not your worth. The Stoics understood that people act based on their own nature, experiences, and struggles. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Whenever you are about to find fault with someone, ask yourself the following question: what fault of mine most nearly resembles the one I am about to criticize?" This doesn't mean tolerating mistreatment, but rather recognizing that their toxicity stems from within them. Their anger is their burden, not yours to carry. This perspective allows you to detach emotionally. Instead of taking things personally, you can observe with a sense of calm detachment. Imagine watching a storm from a safe shelter. You see the rain, you hear the thunder, but you are untouched by it. This is the power of mastering your reactions. A toxic person may try to provoke you, but if you remain composed, their power diminishes. They might escalate their behavior at first, seeking a response, but in time, they will realize they cannot shake you. Another powerful strategy is mastering the art of redirection. When a toxic person tries to pull you into negativity, don't engage directly. Redirect the energy. Instead of arguing or defending yourself, shift the conversation. If someone is complaining endlessly, steer the discussion toward solutions. If someone is being manipulative, respond with neutrality. This approach disarms them. They expect emotional reactions, but when they don't get what they want, their tactics lose effectiveness. Boundaries are another crucial aspect of dealing with toxic individuals. Setting them is not just about saying no, it's about communicating what is and isn't acceptable. If someone consistently disrespects your boundaries, don't just hope they will change. Take action. Limit your interactions, enforce consequences, and most importantly, stand firm. Boundaries are not for others. They are for you. They serve as a reminder of what you will and will not allow into your life. In some cases, toxic people will try to guilt-trip you into bending your boundaries. They might say you're being too sensitive, too harsh, or even selfish. But remember, you are not responsible for managing their emotions. You are responsible for protecting your peace. True self-respect means holding your ground, even when others try to make you feel guilty for it. When dealing with toxicity, another key lesson is the power of patience. Patience is often misunderstood as passivity, but in reality, it's a form of strength. The ability to remain calm in the face of negativity is not weakness, it's wisdom. Many people act impulsively, allowing emotions to dictate their reactions. But when you take a step back, breathe, and respond with intention rather than impulse, you take control of the situation. Observing patterns is equally important. Toxic individuals often repeat the same behaviors. They may use the same tactics, the same manipulation techniques, or the same excuses. Once you recognize these patterns, you become less susceptible to their influence. Awareness is a powerful shield. When you see the game being played, you are no longer a pawn. Sometimes, the best way to deal with toxic people is to remove yourself from the situation entirely. While this isn't always possible in every circumstance when you do have the choice, choose peace. If a relationship, whether personal or professional, is causing more harm than good, consider whether it's worth maintaining. Walking away doesn't mean you've lost. It means you've chosen your well-being over unnecessary conflict. Finally, remember that the ultimate goal is not just to avoid toxicity, but to cultivate inner peace. The more you focus on building a strong, resilient mindset, the less external negativity will affect you. Toxic people lose their power over those who refuse to engage in their games. The key is not to fight them, but to rise above them. Another fundamental shift in dealing with toxic people is realizing that your time and energy are your most valuable resources. Every second you spend caught up in negativity is a second lost forever. Imagine your energy as a limited currency. Would you waste it on a situation that drains you without giving anything back? The Stoics believed that we should invest our energy only where it truly matters. Seneca once said, "We suffer more often in imagination than in reality." Many conflicts exist only because we allow them to consume our thoughts long after they've happened. But what if you simply let them go? What if instead of replaying negative interactions in your mind, you redirected that energy towards something that genuinely improves your life? This leads to one of the most powerful lessons from Stoicism: indifference to what does not serve you. Not indifference in the sense of being cold or disconnected, but in the sense of refusing to be controlled by things outside your influence. Toxic people thrive on reaction. Their power comes from your response. But what happens when you stop giving them what they want? When their insults are met with silence, their manipulations with disinterest, their attempts to provoke with nothing but calm, they lose control. And in that moment, you regain yours. Imagine walking through a marketplace in ancient Rome where vendors shout, trying to lure you into their stalls. Some promise riches, others provoke with insults, hoping you'll engage. But you, like a true Stoic, walk on, unaffected. The noise surrounds you, but it does not penetrate you. This is how you must approach toxic people. They are simply vendors of chaos, trying to sell you their drama. You do not have to buy it. But let's take it further. What if, instead of just avoiding toxicity, you became so grounded in your sense of self that nothing could shake you? What if you trained your mind to remain unshaken, no matter the storm? This is where real freedom begins. Most people react instinctively, allowing their emotions to dictate their behavior. But you are not most people. You are someone who chooses to respond with wisdom, with purpose, with control. One of the greatest tactics for dealing with toxic people is knowing when to disengage. There is incredible power in silence. People expect arguments. They expect defensiveness. But silence is unnerving. It forces them to face their own words, their own behavior, without your energy fueling the fire. Marcus Aurelius advised, "You always have the option of having no opinion." This doesn't mean you don't care. It means you refuse to waste your breath on battles that do not serve you. And what about those who pretend to be on your side, but secretly work against you? The ones who smile to your face, but criticize you behind your back. The Stoics understood that deception is a part of human nature, and the best defense is awareness. Pay attention not just to what people say, but to what they do consistently. Words can lie. Actions reveal the truth. If someone's loyalty wavers based on who is watching, they were never truly loyal to begin with. There is an art to dealing with difficult people without losing your peace. It's a combination of wisdom, patience, and strategy. You must be like a warrior who knows that not every battle is worth fighting. Some battles drain you, distract you, and leave you weaker than before. Others, the rare few, are worth engaging in because they lead to real growth. The key is knowing the difference. So ask yourself, how much of your life have you given away to people who do not deserve it? How often have you let someone else's negativity dictate your mood, your thoughts, your peace? What would change if you decided right now that your energy is yours and yours alone, and no one else gets to control it? Once you reclaim your energy, something incredible happens. You stop being an easy target. Toxic people prey on those who react, who engage, who can be manipulated into playing their games. But when you stop participating, when you refuse to feed into their chaos, they have no power over you. It's like a fire without oxygen. It simply burns out. This is where true control lies. Not in changing them, not in making them see reason, but in choosing how you respond. You don't need to prove yourself to people who have already decided to misunderstand you. You don't need to fight battles that lead nowhere. You don't need to engage in arguments that serve no purpose but to drain you. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one." The same applies here. Waste no more time trying to change toxic people. Simply be someone who refuses to be affected by them. This doesn't mean tolerating abuse or allowing people to mistreat you. It means setting boundaries so firm that their negativity never reaches you. Think about how much of your peace has been lost to people who didn't deserve it. Every time you replayed a conversation in your mind, every time you let someone's words dictate your emotions, every time you allowed their actions to steal your joy, that was your power slipping away. But here's the truth. You can take it back, right now, by deciding that your mind is yours and yours alone. This isn't about becoming emotionless. It's about becoming selective. It's about deciding what deserves your energy and what does not. Picture a great oak tree, its roots deep, its trunk steady. The wind may blow, storms may rage, but it remains unshaken. That is the mindset you must cultivate. Because when you are grounded in who you are, external forces lose their grip on you. And here's the best part. When you stop reacting, when you stop feeding into their negativity, you force toxic people to confront themselves. They lose the ability to control you, and in doing so, they are left with nothing but their own unresolved issues. You, on the other hand, walk away with your peace intact. But let's talk about something deeper. Why do toxic people have the power to affect us in the first place? The answer often lies in our own insecurities. If their words cut deep, if their actions shake us, it's because some part of us believes them, some part of us doubts our worth. But imagine if you didn't. Imagine if you knew, without a shadow of a doubt, that their words were meaningless, that their negativity was a reflection of them, not you. This is where true detachment comes in, not as a way to escape reality, but as a way to take control of it, to see things as they are, not as your emotions distort them, to recognize that most people's behavior has nothing to do with you and everything to do with them. Think about how freeing that would be, how much lighter your life would feel if you stopped internalizing other people's toxicity, if you stopped trying to prove yourself to those who would never see your worth, if you stopped explaining yourself to those committed to misunderstanding you. Because here's the truth. The most powerful response to toxicity is indifference. Not coldness, not resentment. Just the quiet confidence of someone who knows their worth. Someone who refuses to be pulled into the storm. Someone who understands that their energy is too valuable to waste on people who thrive on conflict. So ask yourself, how many of your reactions are truly necessary? How often do you engage out of habit rather than intention? What would happen if, next time, you simply let it go? You might be surprised at how quickly your world changes when you stop giving attention to the things that drain you. Toxic people thrive on your reactions. They feed off your frustration, your anger, your need to defend yourself. But the moment you choose not to engage, you disrupt their entire game. Think about it. What happens when you argue with someone who's only looking to provoke you? They don't listen. They don't reflect. They just escalate. The more you push back, the more fuel you give them. But what happens when you stay calm, when you don't rise to their bait? They lose control. They lose power. And in that moment, you gain yours. It's not always easy. It takes discipline to resist the urge to react. It takes self-awareness to recognize when you're being pulled into a pointless battle. But every time you choose silence over unnecessary conflict, every time you walk away from someone who only wants to drain your energy, you are reinforcing your own strength. This is what Stoicism teaches us, not to suppress our emotions, but to master them, to decide where our energy goes, to refuse to let external negativity dictate our internal peace. Because at the end of the day, that's what toxic people want, to control how you feel. And when you let them, you give them exactly what they're looking for. But here's something most people don't realize. Toxic people don't just come from outside. Sometimes the most damaging negativity comes from within. From our own minds, our own thoughts, our own fears. We talk about protecting ourselves from external toxicity, but how often do we examine the way we treat ourselves? How often do we replay past mistakes, letting them define us? How often do we doubt our own worth, allowing the opinions of others to shape our self-perception? How often do we let fear dictate our choices, keeping us trapped in situations that no longer serve us? This is where real transformation begins. Because detachment isn't just about ignoring toxic people. It's about breaking free from the toxic patterns within ourselves. It's about recognizing that we are not our past, that we are not the negative voices in our heads, that we have the power to rewrite the narrative at any moment. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." And this applies not just to how we handle difficult people, but to how we handle ourselves, to how we respond to our own doubts, our own fears, our own insecurities. Because if you can master your mind, if you can train yourself to respond with wisdom instead of impulse, if you can detach from the things that do not serve you, then no one, not toxic people, not external circumstances, not even your own doubts, can shake you. And that is true freedom, not the absence of conflict, not the avoidance of difficulty, but the ability to remain steady no matter what life throws at you. To walk through chaos without becoming part of it. To engage with the world without being controlled by it. So take a moment and ask yourself, where are you giving away your power? What situations, what people, what thoughts are taking more from you than they give? And more importantly, what would happen if you simply let them go? Imagine walking into a storm, but instead of fighting against the wind, you let it pass through you. You don't resist. You don't panic. You stand firm, knowing that no storm lasts forever. This is the mindset you must cultivate when dealing with toxicity, whether from others or from within yourself. Most people spend their entire lives reacting, getting upset over insults, getting frustrated over obstacles, getting consumed by situations that, in the grand scheme of things, don't deserve their energy. But what if you trained yourself to respond instead of react? What if instead of allowing external negativity to dictate your emotions, you became the master of your own mind? Think about how much time is wasted on unnecessary conflicts, arguments that go nowhere, trying to prove yourself to people who will never understand you, holding on to resentment that only poisons you from the inside. None of it adds value to your life. None of it makes you stronger. It only keeps you stuck. Marcus Aurelius once said, "The best revenge is not to be like your enemy." That means when someone tries to manipulate you, you don't play their game. When someone insults you, you don't lower yourself to their level. When someone spreads negativity, you don't let it take root in your mind. You rise above it, not because you're avoiding conflict, but because you refuse to be controlled by it. This is where most people struggle. They confuse detachment with weakness. They think that if they don't respond, if they don't defend themselves, they're letting the other person win. But the truth is, real strength lies in knowing when to walk away. It's understanding that not every battle is worth fighting, and not every person deserves a response. Ask yourself, how many times have you let someone's words ruin your day? How often have you replayed an argument in your head long after it was over? How many nights have you lost sleep over something someone else said or did? And now, think about this. Did any of that serve you? Did any of it bring you peace? Or did it just drain you even more? This is why learning to master your emotions is crucial. Because if you don't control your mind, someone else will. Toxic people are experts at pushing buttons, at finding your weaknesses, at making you doubt yourself. But once you realize that their power only exists when you give it to them, everything changes. Picture this. You're in a conversation with someone who is clearly trying to provoke you. Maybe they're criticizing you. Maybe they're making passive-aggressive comments. Maybe they're trying to manipulate your emotions. Now you have two choices. You can engage, get defensive, argue back, and let their negativity pull you in. Or you can pause. You can recognize what's happening. You can choose not to react. And in that moment, you win. Not because you've defeated them, not because you've proved anything, but because you've maintained control over yourself. That is what true power looks like. But here's the catch. This isn't something that happens overnight. You don't just wake up one day completely unaffected by negativity. It takes practice. It takes self-awareness. It takes repeatedly choosing peace over chaos until it becomes second nature. And one of the most powerful ways to build this mindset is through self-reflection. Take a moment and think about the people who drain you, the conversations that leave you exhausted, the situations that make you feel powerless. Now, instead of asking, "Why are they like this?" ask, "Why am I allowing this to affect me?" Because that is the only thing you can control, your reaction. The moment you stop making excuses for other people's toxicity and start taking responsibility for your own peace, you become untouchable. This is what the Stoics understood. They knew that external events are beyond our control, but our perception of them is entirely up to us. They trained themselves to see obstacles not as problems, but as opportunities. They didn't waste time trying to change others. They focused on mastering themselves. So the next time someone tries to get a reaction out of you, remember this: you don't owe them your energy. You don't owe them your anger. You don't owe them access to your mind. Let them say what they want. Let them do what they will. You are not responsible for their actions, only your own. And when you fully embrace this mindset, you step into a level of freedom that most people will never experience. But there's something even deeper to consider here. What happens when the toxic person isn't someone you can just walk away from? What if they're a coworker, a family member, someone you have to deal with on a regular basis? In these situations, walking away may not be an option, but that doesn't mean you have to surrender your peace. You can't always control whether toxic people exist in your life, but you can control how much power they have over you. Think about this. If you are trapped in a room with someone throwing insults at you, trying to provoke you, trying to get under your skin, but you refused to react, what would happen? Eventually, they'd get bored. They'd run out of things to say. Their power over you would dissolve because their only weapon was your reaction. Without that, they have nothing. This is why emotional discipline is everything. Toxic people thrive on chaos. They feed off drama. They want to pull you into their negativity because that's where they feel strongest. But the moment you refuse to engage, the moment you decide that their behavior isn't worth your peace, they lose control over you. Of course, this is easier said than done. When someone disrespects you, when they lie, when they manipulate, the instinct is to fight back. You want to defend yourself. You want to make them see your side. You want justice. But ask yourself this: has arguing ever changed a toxic person? Has proving yourself ever made them treat you differently? Toxic people don't operate on logic. They don't respond to reason. They live in a world where manipulation, guilt, and emotional games are their tools of control. That's why engaging with them is a losing battle. You won't win by arguing. You won't win by proving them wrong. You win by not playing their game at all. But here's where most people get stuck. They think that ignoring toxicity means tolerating it. That's not true. Detachment is not the same as acceptance. Setting boundaries is not about being passive. It's about being strategic. Let's break it down. Imagine your peace as a fortress. A fortress needs walls. It needs gates. It needs guards that decide who gets in and who stays out. If you let everyone inside without screening them, your fortress will be overrun. The same goes for your mind. If you allow every toxic comment, every manipulation, every insult to take root in your head, your peace will be destroyed. So how do you protect it? By being selective with your energy. Not everyone deserves access to you. Not every comment deserves a response. Not every conflict is worth your time. You have to start asking yourself, does this conversation serve me? Does this person add value to my life? Does engaging in this conflict help me grow? If the answer is no, then why give it your attention? Think about the most powerful people in history. The leaders, the philosophers, the visionaries. They didn't waste their time on petty arguments. They didn't lower themselves to the level of those trying to tear them down. They understood that their energy was too valuable to be spent on things that didn't move them forward. Marcus Aurelius ruled an empire. He faced betrayal, criticism, enemies on all sides, yet he remained calm. He wrote in his journal about controlling his mind, about staying focused, about not allowing the actions of others to dictate his inner state. If he, with all the challenges he faced, could maintain his peace, then so can you. Now, this doesn't mean you should suppress your emotions. It doesn't mean you should let people walk all over you. Stoicism isn't about being numb. It's about being intentional. It's about choosing your responses instead of reacting on impulse. It's about deciding, with full awareness, what deserves your energy and what doesn't. And here's the truth. Most toxic people expect you to react. They expect you to argue. They expect you to defend yourself. When you don't, when you remain unshaken, it confuses them, it frustrates them, it takes away their power. Because the one thing they can't control is a person who refuses to be controlled. This is why the strongest people are often the quietest in the face of conflict. Not because they are weak, but because they understand that real strength is restraint. Real power is in knowing when to speak and when to stay silent. Real wisdom is in choosing battles that actually matter. So the next time you find yourself in a situation with someone trying to pull you into their negativity, ask yourself, do they deserve my energy? Is this worth my peace? And if the answer is no, let it go. Protect your fortress, guard your mind, because at the end of the day, your peace is your responsibility. No one else will protect it for you. But this leads us to another challenge. What if you're dealing with someone who refuses to respect your boundaries? Someone who constantly tests you, who won't accept silence as an answer, who keeps pushing and pushing, trying to get a reaction. How do you maintain your composure in the face of relentless negativity? When dealing with someone who refuses to respect your boundaries, the challenge shifts. This is no longer just about ignoring negativity. It's about enforcing limits with unwavering consistency. Let's be clear. Toxic people test boundaries not because they misunderstand them, but because they want to see if you'll break. They want to know if your limits are just words or if they have real consequences. And if you've ever set a boundary only to have it ignored, you know that words alone aren't enough. This is where many people struggle. They set boundaries but don't enforce them. They say things like, "I won't tolerate disrespect." But when the disrespect happens, they let it slide. They say, "If you continue this behavior, I'll walk away." But when the moment comes, they stay. The problem isn't that toxic people don't understand boundaries. It's that they've learned you won't uphold them. So how do you change this? How do you make it clear that your boundaries are non-negotiable? It starts with one simple truth. People treat you the way you allow them to treat you. If you tolerate disrespect, it will continue. If you accept manipulation, it will persist. If you respond to provocation, you'll keep getting provoked. But the moment you enforce your boundaries with action, not just words, everything changes. Imagine you're a lighthouse standing firm against a storm. The waves crash against you. The wind howls, but you don't move. The storm can rage as much as it wants, but it cannot break you. This is the mindset you need when dealing with people who test your limits. When you say, "I will not engage with insults," and then you actually walk away when insults happen, you're showing strength. When you say, "I won't be guilt-tripped into doing things," and then you refuse to give in to emotional manipulation, you're proving that your boundaries are real. This isn't about being cold or harsh. It's about valuing yourself enough to demand respect. And let's address something important. Enforcing boundaries will upset some people. Toxic individuals will resist. They'll accuse you of being selfish. They'll try to guilt you, to make you feel like the bad person for standing your ground. But ask yourself this. Why would someone be angry that you're enforcing a boundary unless they benefited from crossing it? A person who truly respects you will respect your limits. They won't see your boundaries as an attack. They'll see them as a reflection of your self-respect. but those who thrived on controlling, manipulating, or disrespecting you. They'll resist, they'll test you, and this is where your discipline must be stronger than their persistence. You might wonder, what if I lose people by enforcing boundaries? The truth is, you might. But what you'll gain is far greater. You'll gain peace. You'll gain self-respect. You'll gain relationships that are built on mutual respect, not manipulation. And most importantly, you'll gain control over your own life. Think about the people in history who commanded respect: Marcus Aurelius, Seneca, Epictetus. These were men who faced opposition, criticism, even betrayal. But they didn't let the opinions of others dictate their actions. They remained true to their principles. They set standards for themselves and didn't lower them for anyone. And that's why they were respected, not because they were aggressive, but because they were immovable in their values. This is where true power lies, not in controlling others, but in controlling yourself. Not in forcing people to change, but in refusing to let their behavior dictate your inner peace. Because at the end of the day, you can't control who is toxic. You can only control how much access they have to you. And here's where most people get stuck. They think, I can't just cut people off. They feel obligated to endure toxic behavior because of family ties, friendships, or workplace dynamics. But boundaries aren't about cutting people off. They're about creating the terms of engagement. You don't have to remove someone completely from your life to enforce boundaries, but you do have to change how much power they have over you. If a family member is toxic, limit your interactions. If a coworker is manipulative, keep conversations professional and brief. If a friend constantly drains you with negativity, spend less time with them. You don't owe unlimited access to anyone. Protecting your peace isn't selfish, it's necessary. And here's something even more powerful. The moment you start setting and enforcing boundaries, you'll notice something incredible. The people who truly respect you will start treating you better. The ones who don't, they'll either adapt or disappear. Either way, you win. But there's another challenge here. What if the toxic person in your life is someone you can't avoid? A boss, a close family member, a situation where walking away isn't an option. This is where Stoic resilience becomes your greatest asset. This is where true mental strength is tested. Not in easy moments, but in the ones where avoidance isn't possible. When you're forced to deal with someone toxic because of circumstances beyond your control, the question shifts from, how do I remove them from my life, to how do I maintain my peace despite them? The answer lies in detachment, not coldness, not indifference, but strategic emotional distance. Imagine you're a tree in a storm. The wind howls, branches bend, but the roots remain unshaken. This is the mindset you need when dealing with toxic people you can't avoid. You don't fight every gust of wind. You don't argue with the storm. You stand firm, knowing that the storm will pass, but your inner strength will remain. Detachment is a skill. It's the ability to interact without absorbing, to listen without internalizing, to respond without reacting. Toxic people thrive on emotional reactions. They poke and prod, waiting for a response that gives them control. But when you refuse to engage emotionally, when you meet provocation with calmness, you take away their power. Think about Marcus Aurelius, one of the most powerful men in history, yet constantly surrounded by betrayal, criticism, and political games. If he reacted emotionally to every insult, every manipulation, he would have been consumed by chaos. But he practiced detachment. He reminded himself that another person's actions are their own, and his response is the only thing within his control. He chose to remain centered, unshaken, unaffected. This doesn't mean suppressing emotions. It means mastering them. It means recognizing when someone is trying to pull you into their chaos and refusing to step in. Have you ever noticed how some people seem to create problems just to watch the reaction? They throw out insults, stir up drama, or twist words to get under your skin. They want to see frustration, anger, hurt, because that reaction feeds them. But when you meet their attempts with indifference, with calm clarity, they lose interest. They realize their tactics don't work on you. This is power, not dominance, not aggression, but the quiet, unshakable strength of knowing who you are and refusing to let anyone dictate your emotional state. A common mistake people make is thinking that detachment means being silent in the face of disrespect. That's not true. Detachment isn't about passivity. It's about control. If a toxic person crosses a line, you still address it. You still enforce your boundaries, but you do it without emotional investment. Instead of saying, "How dare you speak to me like that?" which gives them the reaction they want, you say, "I don't engage in conversations that lack respect. If you continue, I'll walk away." And then you follow through. No argument, no frustration, just action. Instead of getting caught in circular debates with someone who refuses to see reason, you say, "I've stated my position. If you're interested in a productive discussion, I'm open to it. Otherwise, I won't continue this conversation." Then you stop engaging. You remove the fuel from their fire. You take away the chaos they want to create. And this brings us to one of the most misunderstood aspects of dealing with toxic people: silence. Most people think silence is weakness, that if you don't argue back, you're letting them win. But silence, when used strategically, is one of the most powerful tools you have. Toxic people expect engagement. They expect defensiveness. They expect resistance. When you don't give it to them, they're left with nothing to feed off. Have you ever noticed that when you don't react to someone's provocations, they often escalate? They try harder, push further, looking for any reaction. But when they see they're getting nothing, when they realize you're untouchable, they either lose interest or expose their true nature for everyone to see. This is the power of silence, not as a way to avoid conflict, but as a way to control it. You're not ignoring the issue. You're choosing not to play their game. You're showing them with your actions that they don't have control over you. And here's the truth. Once you master this, once you become the kind of person who isn't easily rattled, people will start treating you differently. Toxic individuals will learn that you are not someone they can manipulate. They will either change their approach or fade from your life. And those who respect your strength will be drawn to you, creating relationships built on genuine connection, not power struggles. But detachment and silence aren't the only tools at your disposal. There's another element to handling toxic people that is often overlooked, one that turns every encounter into an opportunity for growth, rather than frustration. That element is perception. The way you see the situation changes everything. Most people approach toxic interactions with frustration. Why do I have to deal with this? Why can't they just change? But Marcus Aurelius taught a different approach. Instead of resisting reality, he embraced it. Instead of seeing toxic people as obstacles, he saw them as opportunities to practice virtue. What if, instead of being annoyed by toxic people, you viewed them as training, a test of your patience, a lesson in self-control, a chance to refine your ability to stay calm under pressure? Think about it. Every time you deal with someone manipulative, you sharpen your ability to recognize deception. Every time you face someone aggressive, you strengthen your ability to remain composed. Every time you resist the urge to engage in pointless arguments, you prove to yourself that your peace is more important than your ego. This is how the Stoics approached life. They didn't wish for an easier existence. They wished for the strength to handle whatever came their way. And that strength is built through experience. You can't become patient without things that test your patience. You can't become wise without dealing with difficult situations. You can't develop resilience without resistance. This is where most people go wrong. They try to avoid all discomfort. They want toxic people to disappear. They want every interaction to be easy. But that's not how life works. The world will always have people who test you. You can either fight reality and be miserable, or you can embrace it and use it to grow. This is why perception is everything. The way you interpret a situation determines how much power it has over you. If you see toxic people as a curse, they will drain you. If you see them as training, they will strengthen you. Imagine a boxer complaining about having to spar with an opponent. Why do I have to get hit? Why can't I just train without resistance? That's not how skill is built. If you want to be strong, you need something to push against. So next time you're dealing with a difficult person, pause. Instead of reacting with frustration, ask yourself, what can I learn from this? How can I use this situation to become stronger? It shifts the entire dynamic. Suddenly, you're not a victim of someone else's toxicity. You're in control. You're using the situation to refine yourself. This mindset makes you untouchable. And here's something most people never realize. When you stop reacting emotionally, when you stop feeding the toxicity, you often change the entire interaction. Toxic people rely on emotional reactions. When they don't get them, they have to adjust. Some might escalate at first, but eventually, they realize their tactics don't work on you. They either change or fade away. This is how you win without fighting. You don't have to argue. You don't have to convince them to change. You don't have to prove anything. You simply remain centered, refuse to engage in their games, and let their own energy work against them. And that brings us to another critical point, self-worth. Because at the root of every toxic interaction, there's a hidden battle over power. Toxic people try to control your emotions, your reactions, your sense of self. But they can only succeed if you let them. This is why knowing your worth is essential. When you deeply understand your value, manipulation doesn't work. Insults don't sting. Passive-aggressive comments don't shake you, because you know who you are. Think about a lion surrounded by barking dogs. The lion doesn't panic. It doesn't try to bark back. It doesn't get rattled. Why? Because it knows what it is. It doesn't need validation. It doesn't need to prove its strength. It simply exists in its power. That's the level of self-worth you need to develop. Because once you have it, toxic people become irrelevant. Their words lose power. Their attempts to control you become laughable. But self-worth isn't just about confidence. It's about boundaries. It's about knowing what you will and won't tolerate. And most importantly, it's about enforcing those boundaries without fear. Because here's the truth. If you don't set boundaries, toxic people will set them for you. They will decide what is acceptable. They will dictate how you're treated. And if you don't push back, they will continue. Boundaries aren't about changing others. They're about protecting yourself. You can't control how people act, but you can control what you allow. You can decide, I don't entertain disrespect. You can decide, I don't waste energy on arguments that go nowhere. You can decide, I won't explain myself to those committed to misunderstanding me. And once you make those decisions, once you enforce those boundaries, everything changes. Because toxic people thrive on weak boundaries. The moment they see you won't tolerate their behavior, they either adjust or disappear. This is how you take back control, not by fighting toxic people, not by trying to change them, but by changing yourself, by mastering your perception, by strengthening your self-worth, by setting and enforcing boundaries with quiet confidence. And if you do this consistently, something remarkable happens. Toxic people stop being a problem, not because they don't exist, but because they no longer affect you, because you've built the mental and emotional strength to handle anything. And that strength leads to something even greater. When you master these principles, you don't just deal with toxic people. You rise above them. You become untouchable, unshaken, and in full control of your energy. That's real power. The kind of power that doesn't need to prove itself. The kind of power that commands respect without demanding it. The kind of power that makes your presence alone enough to shift the entire dynamic of any room you walk into. This isn't just about avoiding negativity. It's about building a life where negativity has no place. A life where your peace is protected, where your mind is clear, where your energy is spent on things that matter. That's what true freedom feels like, and it's within your reach. So if this message resonated with you, if you're ready to keep growing, keep evolving, and keep sharpening your mind with the wisdom of Stoicism, then make sure you subscribe to this channel, because this journey doesn't end here. There's so much more to uncover, so much more to learn, and so much more to gain from this philosophy. Every video is designed to give you something valuable, something that helps you navigate life with more clarity, more confidence, and more strength. So stay with me. Let's keep going. Let's keep building. Because this is just the beginning.